have said that. Luckily, that was pre-recording. Welcome to Reformgelical, where the Reformed and Evangelicals meet. My name is Matt Williams. I'm co-hosted by the great AD Robles. AD, how you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. It's a great day.
It is a great day.
Yeah.
Every day is a great day.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. There's someone I talk to a lot, and I ask him, how you doing? And every single time he says, better than I deserve.
Yeah.
Like, I know that's true, but can you give me a little more sometimes?
That's right. I think he got that from Dave Ramsey. Isn't that what Dave Ramsey says?
That is what Dave Ramsey says. Yeah. You're right. Yeah.
Not only is he not giving you much information, but he's also plagiarizing people.
Oh, jeez. Gonna have to call him out on that one. Thank you everyone for watching live. We live stream every Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. We have our shows come out the next day, Friday. And thank you for everyone who supports us on Patreon, patreon.com/reformgelical. We are monetized on YouTube temporarily. Yeah. So if you want to guarantee one of your comments to be read on the show, do one of those little monetization comments. I don't know what they're called.
Super chats.
Super chat.
Yeah. Will we see it on this platform? I hope so.
I don't know if we'll see it on the platform.
Now you're guaranteeing an answer.
I've thought this through. Don't worry about it.
Right,
I have YouTube on the background. So I'm watching the chats on the YouTubes.
Super chat. Yeah.
Super chat. Yeah. So if you guys want to support us and have a question or steer the show in a specific way, we'll do it for pay. We'll be bought and paid for. We have no problem with that. Oh my goodness. All right. So there's just so much to talk about. I still have this fear in the back of my mind as a podcaster that with the COVID going on, there's really going to run out of topics to talk about, but that really has not been an issue.
No, it hasn't.
Yeah, 2020 has been a good year for us. First thing I wanted to talk about, it's kind of been the thing that a lot of people have been talking about on Twitter, is John Harris and Neil Shenvi. They had a little conversation. Did you ever make your way through the whole thing? I know you watched some of it. I don't know.
No, I had to stop. I stopped. So I stopped around maybe 25, 30 minutes in. And I was really impressed with the first 25, 30 minutes. Yeah. And then it got into the weeds just too much back and forth about Walter Strickland and stuff like that. And it was just like so silly. So not silly because it was stupid. It was just too much about him and his beliefs. Mm-hmm. And it was just going round and round and round. So I stopped probably around, 50 minutes, 60 minutes. And there was another hour left. So I don't know.
Now I want to go back and see how far I made it because I feel like it was right around that time. Now I just want to see if I had a little more endurance than you or not, or if you beat me.
It was just too much. It wasn't bad. It was just too much on the same topic. And obviously that was a big point of contention, but I didn't care about it too much. So I just stopped. But I felt like the first half hour was pretty good.
Yeah. And you like Neil, right?
I like Neil. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And obviously we like John Harris. I like Neil too. I actually really appreciate his honesty and his pursuit for truth.
Yes.
And, that how he tries to get to the truth no matter what. I think that's very valuable in today's world. But, and we actually went back and forth on this last week, Neil and I, as I just have this big problem with what he's trying to do with trying to take the truth out of the heresy and kind of give it some kind of validation.
Right.
Do you have a problem with that?
I do. In fact, I did a little video about the section that I listened to that I thought was the most interesting. And what they were doing was Neil was essentially saying that, that there's a guy who's teaching at Southern Seminary and he's a solid guy, even though he was telling everybody that they could learn a lot about the gospel from a heretic who had a false gospel. And what Neil was trying to do was saying, BC, he was talking about the real gospel, even as he pointed to the false gospel. And I just find that so bizarre. There's just no reason for it. And I understand he wants to assume the best about this guy, but at some point you have to be like, yeah, but you got to stop pointing to heretics for this.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because it doesn't make the points that you're trying to make. And I was trying to think about like an example of this. And, John Harris was using the guy that did Mormonism as an example, but he's not the best example because he was wacky. But then again, this James Cone guy was wacky too. So I don't know. It was just a very weird thing. And I think that Neil's, it's a strength, but also it's an Achilles heel that he bends over backwards to assume that you're saying something good, even when it's like even beyond the point of when it's like you're actually not saying something good. And I'm okay with bending over backwards for trying to believe, someone's doing the right thing. But eventually there's got to be a point when it's just like, you got to say, you got to stop this. You know what I mean? You got to stop this. And I think Neil knows that, but he hasn't reached that point, even though for a lot of us, it's like, how?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's little value to me. In fact, I think it's more damaging. I told him this too. Like, I understand what you're doing.
I can understand.
You want to be fair. You want to make sure that we are carefully analyzing a situation. But there's really, and I don't think there's any benefit really into parsing out the food from the poison or the good seeds from the bad seeds. Yeah. I would just think back about Jesus where he says, if you're not for me, you're against me. If you're not gathering, you're scattering. It's like, okay, well, they may be scattering, but some of the seeds they're scattering are good. Not all of them are bad. It's like, it doesn't matter. Like, where is the end goal? What is the play? Especially, and this is where I had the problem with him, is like, if you want to talk about this in academic circles, in the classroom, privately, things like that, sure, go ahead, knock yourself out.
Totally.
But like when you start trying to do these things and validate certain aspects of heresy, certain things that will, if you believe them, you could go to hell. Like, this is damaging stuff. If you start validating it, a layperson in the public forum may not catch on to those nuances and those intricacies that you're going through, and they might think you're validating it and it's a good thing.
Right.
Case in point, Resolution 9.
Right.
Like, you see someone validating that, and then like, oh, everyone that's supporting it, that must be good, and that's Christian. Oh, maybe I am a racist, and then it just goes down the loop.
Right. Well, I'm completely on board with everything you said, and I think I said on my own show, I said, there are certain things that I would trust Neil with, and there are certain things that I would not. And so if you're looking for someone to give you sort of an academic reasons as to why critical theory stinks, Neil's great with that. But the minute you have to apply it to a specific person, and is this guy a critical theorist or not, he might begrudgingly eventually say, hey, that kind of sounds like critical theory, but it'll only be like pulling teeth. Like, it'll only be like if you drag him kicking and screaming, he'll finally say, it saddens me, but it sounds kind of like it's influenced by critical theory. Like, I don't trust him with applying it to people. Right. You don't understand what I'm saying? So like, and I've told him this, and I've said it live many times, and we talk every now and then. We're not buddies, but we talk. And so there's nothing wrong with that. Like, okay, my brother asked me who has good materials on the specific reasons why critical theory is not compatible with Christianity, and I said Neil Shenvi does because he does.
Yeah, he does.
Because he does.
100%.
But the minute you're like, okay, now let's apply it to real life, that's where you have some issues.
It's like, all right, we need to go to battle now. Who can we rely on? I'm going to put him on the shelf with his blog and things like that. Like, I don't trust him with that kind of stuff because he's trying to do the middle thing, and it's just not going to work going forward. And I'm not trying to pick on Neil. Again, I like him as a person. I think that he has those attributes that are like good, but that's not this time. We're not in that time for that.
Yeah, absolutely. At one point he asked John, he said, because Walter Strickland was saying, well, this book by James Cone, The Heretic, was the first time I realized that the gospel has implications for us in the here and now. And he is asking John, is that statement true? And it's like, well, it's not. I know you want a yes or no, but it's not a yes or no, because yes, the gospel does, but no, the gospel that he got from James Cone book does not. So the answer is just no. And I'm sure if John would have just said no, he would have been all uppity about that. But it's just a fact. I mean, you can't. This is why it's bad to read heretics if you're not being clear, because they use all the same words. They point to all the same verses. They're fluent with the lingo, and so it can be very confusing. If you talk to a Mormon and you're not prepared for it, you're going to talk about the Trinity. They're going to talk about all this stuff, and it's like, but they don't mean the same thing at all. So you know what I mean. So it's very risky to just say, I recommend this book. It's the most beautiful book I've ever read in my entire life. And not really do the work that you need to do. In fact, at one point, Neil admitted that ideally Walter Strickland would have said, here are the points I disagree with in his theology. And he doesn't do that, this particular teacher. And I think he doesn't do it because he actually has a lot of sympathy for liberation theology, but Neil would say that's uncharitable, and that's fine. But that's the point. So it's like, even Neil knows that like they should be doing more than what they're doing, even though he's not willing to go further and say, and so you should stop pointing people to this stupid book. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Anyway. We got a conspiracy theory here. Our good friend Marcus Pittman, that's going to be at the Fight Laugh Feast Network, just not in Nashville because they're covering up how bad COVID is or how good it is. He wants to know, why is Neil allowed to write for BigEva? It makes him nervous when enemies allow people to write articles on their platforms that expose them.
Do you want to answer that? Because I have a ready answer for that.
Do you? I do not. So go right ahead.
Yeah, because he gives them so much cover. Here's why. Because they can post a Neil Shenvi heady article on their stuff, right? And they know that if somebody goes and Googles Neil Shenvi, he is not going to ever have named any of them, is never going to point to their articles. He's never going to point to their stuff. In fact, if they do look up Neil Shenvi and their names, he'll be defending them. Mm-hmm. So the reality is that if critical theorists and people that are very sympathetic to critical theory, want to get some street cred with conservatives, have Neil on, because it doesn't matter, because his stuff is so heady that it's like, it's exactly that purpose, Marcus. Yeah. It's like, why would somebody sympathetic to critical theory have Neil Shenvi on a show if he's a critical theorist? So I guess we must be safe. He provides so much cover for them because of the fact that he's unwilling or unable to apply it to everyday people.
That's so good. I think that's 100% right. Mark has a good point. Is that the issue is whether a professing Christian who embraces CRT to some degree should be cast off as a heretic or disciplined, or what exactly?
It depends on the degree. I mean, it definitely depends on the degree. I would say that it's like, it's not a good sign. Put it that way. It's not a good sign.
I would say it like this too. For me, if a Christian wants to, for some reason, I don't know why, think about it, process it, try to apply it to different situations. Do I think that they are, somebody I need to call out? No. But when you start using it and start mixing it with the gospel, when you start using it to apply remedies that are in place of the Bible, that's where I start treating you like you're giving out another gospel. Yeah. That's for me where the degrees start, when you're starting applying it and using remedies instead of the Bible. See, I believe, and AD believes, and Orthodox Christians believe that the Bible has given us all we need for godliness in life. And so when we start to stray off and try to use other things in place of the Bible, especially when it contradicts, well, that's another gospel, and to some degree or another. And I don't have to, and I think this helps with so much clarity. We've said it before, I'm going to say it again. It's not our jobs to judge people's hearts, but it is biblical to judge their actions. And so when you see somebody bringing in another gospel, another solution besides the Bible, we should treat them as such, as people that are wolves in sheep's clothing, heretics, teaching another gospel, because what else are we to do?
Yeah, that's right. And Mark here is saying, Neil's point is that John is treating Strickland as a heretic and a false teacher, and Neil believes Strickland is a brother in Christ. His point was pretty straightforward, and I haven't seen it refuted. Yeah, that's exactly it. I don't think John would shy away from saying that. I think he did say that numerous times in the stream. That is the point of contention. So there would be no reason to refute that. And I think that depending on your temperament, depending on how much you're willing to put up with, you'd either agree with Neil or John. Mm-hmm. I don't know enough about Strickland to make a determination myself, but I tend to not look at these like these specific, like the specific formulations of people's words. I tend to give a lot of grace when it comes to the words that people say and their doctrine. Now, obviously, there's a limit there as well. But I know how easy it is to misconstrue someone's words, written words and stuff like that. So I don't really go there so much when we're talking about a professing believer. But to me, it's like when the words are all jacked up and the behavior is ridiculous, that's to me when I say like, well, I don't even treat you like a brother at all. Mm-hmm. So anyway, and Mark's response is, we don't need the world's philosophies, psychologies, and critical theories brought all of those into the church. Definitely. It's not a good sign. It's definitely not a good sign. And it's like you kind of lose a little bit of benefit of the doubt with me when you start bringing that stuff in. Mm-hmm. And that's the point. So when the words are all twisted, and then on top of that, the behavior is just obviously divisive, I just have no reason to assume you're a Christian anymore.
Right. And it should honestly be the opposite. I don't have anything against philosophy and psychology per se. Like, I know a lot of it is garbage and it's founded on garbage. But if you want to go into that profession and like bring the gospel to it and apply the Bible to these things, like, applying God's word as a foundation to philosophy and argue as a philosopher, that's the direction this should be going. It shouldn't be going the other way around.
Definitely. But I think my point is, and I said this to Neil privately, and I'll say it publicly as well, is that, like, at the very least, you know, whether you believe Strickland is a true believer or not, it's not a good look, the stuff that he does. It's super shady. The article that we were both quoted in for the New York Times, like the quote that they attributed to him was so shady. He's like, yeah, I'm teaching James Cone, but I don't mention him because then they'd get their guards up. It's like, that's pretty shady. You know what I mean? And I understand it's New York Times. I mean, maybe cut some things out. But the point is, like, it's just very shady.
Yeah. I mean, if you're mentioned in the New York Times at all, I'm suspect of you unless it's a hit piece. I mean, if you're in the New York Times, it's a hit piece against you. You have credibility. If you're being cited as a source of any kind in the New York Times, you're suspect, man. You're really suspect. Speaking of, I have a little treat. I think it's time to just go through it. I just found an article right before we went live. I'm going to try to share it. And we're going to go through this. We have not rehearsed this. We have not read this.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Here it is.
QAnon.
And I love this because I got accused today of being part of QAnon for using the clown symbol. Well, even let me. Okay, good. Can you see this, AD?
Yes, I definitely can see it. And I just, before you get into this, Mark has asked me, would I say Strickland is a buffoon? And I don't think so. He's not really a buffoon. He's, you know, he's not that entertaining and he's not that ridiculous. So I wouldn't call him a buffoon. I'd call him something else, but I'll have to think about what the best word for him would be.
Not
Shady,
that you would not call somebody a buffoon if they're acting as such, right? Just
definitely.
Not specifically.
Ridiculous, entertaining people. That's what a buffoon is.
For sure. All right, check out this article. The evangelicals who are taking on QAnon. And I read this seriously 5 minutes before we came on the air. And I totally just went back. I think you said this, AD, is just watch. They're setting the stage. BigEva, the Gospel Coalition. You're going to see the liberals come out and attack QAnon and start labeling everyone who supports Trump and everybody who they don't like and disagree with as QAnon. And here we are. Voila. There's not a conspiracy theory that does not come true in 2020.
It's unreal. It is unreal.
Look at this heading, though. Some leaders are trying to save their flocks from the lure of an online conspiracy theory.
Ooh, it sounds so evil.
Yeah. And no, for those of you listening and who are not watching this, it is not written by Joe Carter. I know you would expect it to be. It is not. It is by Sarah Posner.
Oh man, I'm looking at
the
her,
author of Unholy Why White Evangelicals Worship at the Altar of Donald Trump.
I'm just like taking a stroll down her Twitter feed. It's just
it's
exactly what you would expect.
So they were talking to this guy, Seth Brown, who's an executive editor at the Biblical Recorder, a Southern Baptist newspaper in North Carolina, and delivering the warnings about how bad QAnon is. And there's this really great part. I'm trying to scroll down. It's really long. And AD and I were both talking about before this. We really hate when opinion pieces are super long. They just don't need to be.
Especially ones like these.
Yeah, seriously. Okay, so your first paragraph. Some of QAnon's dizzy pileups of false claims that the COVID-19 pandemic is overstated or even non-existent, for example, have been embraced by Trump fans, Republican congressional candidates, and the president himself. Mr. Brown and others say they are proliferating in white evangelical circles, and even as many of the people sharing the content may have never even heard QAnon.
Unreal.
Like, so this is their first citation of how bad this thing is that the pandemic was overstated.
Yeah, I mean, this is a fact.
Yes.
This is just a fact. So if QAnon is stating facts that are unpopular, maybe I need to check into QAnon a little bit more. You know what I mean? Like if this is exhibit A of how dangerous QAnon is, that they say that, and this is like the most tame theory about COVID-19, that it's overstated. Not even that it's a fantasy, not even that it's 5G that's doing it, not even that it's a satanic group of women in government that are doing an incantation on us. No, nothing weird. It's just overstated. That is a fact. There is no There is no. Does everyone just forget? Does anyone ever just forget like the way that it was sold to us? It was like 10% death rate, and it's gonna spread everywhere, and our hospitals are gonna be overrun, and nobody's gonna be able to get surgery because there's gonna be. We need this many beds, but we only have this many beds. It's just unbelievable. I heard the word hospital beds more time in a couple of days than I've ever heard in my entire life about the hospital beds and the
ventilators.
We need ventilators. I haven't heard the word ventilators in like 5 months.
Right.
But the first
we never ran out.
Because we didn't even need hardly any of them. We had too many. We were giving them away. I think, weren't we sending ventilators out everywhere?
Oh my God.
I remember the first month, I just heard the word ventilators more times than I could ever imagine. And I mean, Ali, in the chat, tell me if you've heard the word ventilators in the last 3 months. If you have, I would be shocked. So anyway, so the exhibit A of how dangerous QAnon is, the conspiracy theory QAnon that is overtaking evangelicalism. Exhibit A, they say this. Get this, guys. Ready, chat? Ready? The COVID-19 pandemic is overstated. There it is. That's the big one. That's the big one. And so now you know that anyone who's ever shared an article, even if they don't know it's QAnon, they're actually Satanists.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Joe Carter told me. That's what my Uncle Joe. I'm going to call him Uncle Joe.
Uncle Joe.
Uncle Joe told me that if you believe that the COVID-19 pandemic is overstated, you might as well just go to the closest satanic temple and just bow down because you're already doing the devil's work.
Yes, absolutely.
So he heard ventilators yesterday. Joshua Scott might be part of QAnon.
Oh man, yeah. It's funny. The ventilators were getting driven home because, or is being used as a fear tool because they never thought Trump would be able to pull off getting enough, and sure enough, he did. And as soon as he did, crickets, nothing more. But that just might be my white evangelical talking from my white evangelical circles. What's go ahead.
No, I don't even know.
I was just going to say, what's even funnier about this is breaking today. The story came out today. And the very same day that Nashville, Tennessee had emails leaked that they are not showing, or they are covering up, they are understating how bad the coronavirus is in bars and restaurants, and they didn't want it to get out so that no one would want to go back and open up.
So wait a minute. Did you have to go on the dark web to get that story? Was that on 8chan or 4chan? Is that where you got that story? Because that's where QAnon operates, on 8chan and 4chan on the dark web. So Matt, are you telling me that you were on 8chan today and you found that story?
Hey, I'm not going to lie to you. If you told me today, go check something on one of those things that you just said, or go check QAnon, I would not know the first place to go look. I would go to Google and ask, how do I get on these places and how do you spell them or something?
That's right. So you must have got it from another kind of satanic source. What's the source of this Nashville story, Matt? That
I believe it was Fox, wasn't it? Wasn't it the Fox News local channel?
There you go. That explains everything, because we also learned from Gospel Coalition this week that Fox News is a peddler of conspiracy theories, and so is also likewise satanic. Oh. So there you go. That's what's going on.
Oh my gosh. You see these things happening in local branches of government, the local municipalities, like the mayor of Nashville. And then you see like Twitter, Google banning Tucker Carlson's show last night, where he had the defector from the lab that the coronavirus came from on TV.
Right.
And they block him. They take it down and say it's conspiracy theories. And they're citing their fact checkers that are towing the Chinese line. It's absolutely amazing.
And let's just call this what it is. This is censorship. This is government censorship, and that's what it is. So they tell you what's true. They don't let you figure it out. They know what's true, and everything else they'll silence. Mm-hmm. And so, but this is the point though. We've got evangelicals like Uncle Joe, Uncle CIA agent Joe Carter, Joe Khrushchev. And then we've got this lady, this Sarah Posner lady. I mean, obviously a pagan. If you just look at her Twitter feed, you know she's a pagan. Mm-hmm. And then we've got Gospel Coalition telling you that everything in their mother's a conspiracy theory on the right wing. so that this is it's all connected. We've got these dutiful evangelicals that are like, yeah, you're right. Conspiracy theories are the most dangerous thing ever. And then before you know it, we've got an official religion that'll do every official line. They'll parrot it and they'll push it forward as loving your neighbor. And that's how you have a state church. Basically, we've got a situation where BigEva is becoming the state church before our eyes. Every single thing that the state says, they say. Every single thing that MSNBC says, they say. So it's like, at what point do we just call it what it is? Like we're getting an official state church. It's starting to form. And I'm honestly, like, I joke about Joe Carter being an agent, but I don't know how much of a joke it is. Allegedly.
Yeah,
but,
allegedly.
You know, I don't know. Someone might want to do a background check. I mean, he might be Joe Khrushchev. Who knows?
Yeah, 2020 is not over. We still have some prizes left. Some surprises for us.
I'm not telling anybody to harass Joe Carter, by the way, just in case it wasn't obvious.
Yeah, we're really trying not to get sued here.
Don't sue me, bro.
Don't sue me, bro. But it's so amazing. So this lady, I don't know if you saw it because it did get taken down from a lot of different places for those of you listening and watching. But she says that not only that she can prove that it was a man-made virus, and she says man-made, but that she makes a claim that it was manipulated, that it was a normal virus that wouldn't in fact infect humans. But the Chinese military, who runs the lab, the Chinese military runs everything. It's a communist country. Manipulated it and changed it so that it would hurt humans. It literally weaponized the virus.
Yeah. Well, you know, this is the interesting part about this woman, because this is a theory that's been around for a while, of course. But it was always a theory that wasn't just like wackadoodles saying, well, you know, I bet you they developed it in a lab in China. No, it was like people that knew like what you could do with viruses, people that were credentialed and said it's definitely possible that they did this because we can do this. We can manipulate these viruses and splice them and do this kind of stuff. Like, this is the kind of stuff we study. So it's possible, and it certainly seems like the way this is behaving, that could be the case here. So like, but the thing is though, that gets silenced instantly. In fact, the channel that I heard that on for the first time was blackholed by Google and Twitter all in the same day. So they coordinate, you know, all these companies coordinate. And so there's no, if it was actually developed in a lab and something like this was true, what we need to ask ourselves is, how would you know when all of the dissent is instantly silenced? No matter how official, no matter who's saying it, it's instantly silenced. If Trump were to tweet something like this, it would probably get taken down. That's where we're at.
For sure.
That's where we're at. So it's like, you know, all you evangelicals who are lending your weight behind this, conspiracy theories are the most dangerous thing ever in the entire universe. Like, all of you guys that are doing that, you're actually helping this process go forward, this censorship process, where now all of a sudden all of your news is only the official news, only what they want you to know. And if they don't want you to know the truth, you're never going to know the truth, because all they have to do once you give them the credibility to do this is say that's a conspiracy theory. And all of a sudden, not only are they feeling that weight in the public square, they're also getting that at church now, because I'm going to be nice, you people have lent your weight behind it.
Yeah, I know.
So we gotta cut this out. And the thing is, like, there's conspiracy, there's issues with conspiracy theories. We don't want to say things that are untrue. We don't want to do that kind of stuff, right? We don't want to go down the rabbit hole and become obsessed with this stuff, trying to find codes in the Bible. We all get that. Yeah. We all get that. That there's a big difference between that kind of thing and silencing dissent because it's all a conspiracy theory. There's a big difference between that kind of thing and then writing an article for Gospel Coalition that says Fox News, Rush Limbaugh, and Ben Shapiro, who's anti-conspiracy theory, is a conspiracy theorist.
And Donald Trump, anti-Donald Trump as well.
Right. Exactly. Like, anyone who's listened to Ben Shapiro for 2 seconds knows that he doesn't like that kind of stuff.
Right.
And I've listened to very little Ben Shapiro, but I know that he doesn't like that kind of stuff. So it's just so bizarre. So now all of that is satanic too. This is the influence of Uncle Joe. Yeah,
it definitely is. And the thing about it that is so pernicious, should I use that word, or something I just don't like about it?
I like it.
To use common man language that I understand.
I don't like it.
I don't like it. Is that they're labeling conspiracy theories that are just skeptical thinking, or people
That's
that
right.
have skepticism as conspiracy theories,
Right.
where we're not even giving a theory. We're
Yes,
just
right.
skeptical.
Right.
And
Well, that's
that is
literally
super unhealthy.
Do you remember when Uncle Joe interacted with me? That's exactly what he was doing. He was saying, oh, I was asking him about Epstein, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I'm skeptical of the Epstein story. Just so preposterous. Doesn't make any
That's
sense.
right. Yeah.
And he was like, are you conspiracy? What do you think happened? I was like, Joe, I don't know what happened, but I just don't believe that's wackadoodle story. And he was so desperate to like get me to posit a theory so he could get me. And granted, he's smart, so he didn't say you're a conspiracy theorist, but essentially that's what he was trying to do. That's what he was saying. And then he was trying to like put a conspiracy theory in my mouth. He was saying, well, you must believe them. The guards were in on it, and it was somebody who wanted him dead. Like, he was trying to do that thing. And that's exactly right. No, my skepticism of your crazy story is not a theory. It's just I don't believe your crazy story. When I see something crazy, I don't believe it.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
But you're right, Matt. So that there's a rhetorical trick there.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. And it's like, because I remember us talking about this, like, hey, it actually happened. Really, the zero, what do they call it? Zone zero or patient zero, something like that.
Yeah, yep.
Wherever it originated was right next to where they do experiments and the lab testing and all that stuff with the virus. And we were just like, that's kind of suspicious. And like, they don't sell bats there. They said it came from a bat at a wet market, but they don't even eat bats there. This isn't really adding up. Like, maybe it came from the lab. Who knows? And then we got scientists after scientists published peer-reviewed papers saying it definitely didn't because of genomes and all this stuff and blah, 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 blah. Well, now we do know it came from the lab. And now we have a scientist from the lab, worked at the lab, saying that she has proof that it was manipulated and weaponized by the Chinese. So everyone who was it's like they were treating just these questions just like any other of those, weird stories like Epstein killing himself and things like that.
And
but it's turning true.
Right. And Google didn't talk to this lady to figure out what the proof was. They didn't ask her why she said that. They didn't say anything. They just took it down. Yeah, they didn't ask her that stuff. That's obvious. If they did, they would have told you. They would have showed the proof that they talked to her, and it was just preposterous. No, they just took it down. So it's just all ridiculous. And so if the big danger here is actually not censorship that's being approved of by BigEva and every institution in the United States, that's not the big problem. What the big problem is this message board conspiracy theory that said that COVID-19, the pandemic, is overstated.
Right.
And that there are secret pedophile rings. That's the other one, because that's exhibit 2, right? Mm-hmm. There are secret pedophile rings. There was a few busted just the other day. So it's just like, so what is exactly your problem here? Like, I understand that, there are certain things that are said about Hillary Clinton and some specific names and stuff like that. I get that. Okay, that you can call it slander, whatever you want. But the real thrust here is that's really not the thrust of this article. It's the big deal is that the COVID-19 pandemic is overstated, and they're Trump fans.
Yeah, I know. I got accused of that today, and I was thinking, you know what? Like, should I just identify as a QAnon person? I'm not. I've never read it. Again, I don't even know where to go. But like, if that's what we're known for, is like going after child pedophiles and thinking through things and coming up with theories, like, I think I just might claim it just to like,
no, keep going. Because
I was just saying, I would rather identify as QAnon, a group that is against child pedophilia, than I would signing on to Resolution 9 on the SBC.
Yeah,
I'll tell you that much. I'd rather be associated with QAnon than anything critical race theory related.
Well,
that's for sure.
What's amazing about this is just like, if you look at the way the article is written, you know that her first punch is COVID-19 is overstated. Okay, so that's her big thing, and then she says that they're Trump fans and they feel like Trump is being unfairly maligned. That's their other sin.
Yeah,
and it's like that again. That is a fact that you can back up with data. You look at the trending on Twitter, you understand that the way they spin stories typically is very unfair towards Trump. Now, there are certain things about Trump that you can criticize fairly. The way that they twist these stories is typically unfair. So that's another fact, right? That's another fact. And here's the other thing. It's a way of trying to justify their support for the president. There's another sin. Wow, QAnon sounds really bad. They're trying to justify support for the president by saying the COVID pandemic was overstated, and he's being unfairly maligned. Like, this article is gold because those are evil things, if you could imagine. And so here's the other big one. This is the big boy, right? Lots of QAnon posts and merchandise also has Bible verses on it.
No way.
That's another one. Oh yeah, Matt, didn't you know this? And in fact, Q often will quote Bible verses, and that's another big problem because you don't want the Bible associated with two facts like Trump is unfairly maligned in the media and that the COVID-19 pandemic has been overstated. That would be bad if Bible verses started getting associated with those two facts, right? It's just like, where are you coming from? Listen, I know a little bit about QAnon. I know a little more than you think, Matt. But there are some things that strike me as particularly wild claims. But if you look at what they're really offended by, it's really not that stuff. It's this first stuff, the COVID-19 pandemic, and the fact that they like Trump and think he's being unfairly maligned, and they post Bible verses with their memes. And it's like, are you freaking crazy?
Yeah, total gaslighting, right? Because it's like unfairly maligned. Do you not just know that this president got impeached for something that was a conspiracy theory? Did you not just see the reports of how he was spied on by our intelligence agencies before and after the election?
Yeah, that's not unfair maligned.
No, not at all. No. Being said that he was like peeing on prostitutes in Russia from a report that was paid for by the Clintons. That was definitely not being unfair and maligning him.
So it's like, okay, so they believe in pedophile rings that do exist. They believe in Satanists that are involved in politics, which is a definite fact as well. They believe that Trump was unfairly maligned and the COVID-19 pandemic was overstated. Wow, that sounds super evil. That actually sounds like something we need to dedicate more space in the Gospel Coalition to, because it's a very big problem. In fact, I think we should change the Gospel Coalition's format, and there should be a weekly update on what's going on in QAnon.
I'm sure there will be. They're desperate, man. They're very desperate. I saw somebody on Twitter. Was it last night? Yeah, last night we were going after them and just showing all of the data and the performance of KPIs of their website and their article performance. It's not looking good. It's not looking good at all. And I love this new.
They're trying.
They are really trying. Yeah, they're trying everything. And I love the new Twitter enhancement where you can check on who's quoted the tweets. You just not how many retweets. And you just see, I'm like, oh man, they got a lot of quoted retweets, like 14 or 15 for this article. And then they're all making fun of them. Every single one.
That's right. Yeah, it's amazing. I saw the one that you shared, and it was gold. I laughed for like 10 minutes.
It's so worth it.
Did you see a tweet today, Matt? Not to promote myself, but I'm going to do it. Did you see my tweet about BigEva being the nice guy?
No. Oh, yes. And I loved it.
This is what the QAnon thing is.
Can you read that for us, please? We need to talk about this.
So, yes, I said that BigEva is trying to win the world like a nice guy tries to win a girl, right? So he's the nice guy. He's different than all the other guys. And so he's always there when your boyfriend breaks up with you so you can cry on his shoulder, take her out to dinner, stuff like that. He's always there for her. And she always tells him that she wants a guy just like him. Why can't she find a guy just like him? And the nice guy thinks that if he stays there long enough through all the boyfriends and all the heartache, that she'll get with him one day. But of course, the girl doesn't do it. And this is what the QAnon stuff is. This is like the nice guy trying to say, I'm not like other guys. I'm just like, I'm not like other guys. I'm a nice guy. This is BigEva's attempt to win
I wouldn't
the
treat
world.
you like this, world.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not like those other Christians. I'm not like those other Christians who downplay COVID-19, if you know what I mean. I care for you. I really care. I'm a nice guy.
I think you're great.
And it's like, yeah, I just think you're wonderful. And all the while the world is telling the nice guy that she wishes she could find a guy just like him, but not him though, because he's like a sister. That's it. And like the hot girl, she dates a new guy every year. And so like every year or so, like she'll go out to dinner with the nice guy because the boyfriend broke up with her or whatever. And that's about the same frequency that Russell Moore gets on MSNBC, just about every year or so. Just,
Yeah,
I'm
there's
still
that
here.
weak window between the boyfriends of the hot girl where the guy thinks it's his time.
He thinks it's his time. Maybe he'll take her out twice, and he'll pay both times as well. And so Russell Moore, maybe he'll be on MSNBC twice in a week, and he'll be thinking, "Oh, it's my time. It's my turn," and it's never your turn because she just wants you there just to buy her dinner every now and then.
And to hear and to have someone to talk to for she complains about what the guy did or something that. Yeah.
Right. He's such a jerk. He's like, I heard this QAnon guy. He said such mean things about COVID-19. He's such a jerk, right? He's like, yeah, COVID-19's real. It's so real. It's very deadly.
And I was thinking about that today because I did see that tweet, and I was going back to like pastors that are just they won't teach and they won't articulate any of the times where Jesus has masculine actions.
Right.
Kind of was talking about in the beginning. And it's like, no wonder Christians are like this. No wonder Christians think this is the play. It's because we've not been told and not been given the examples, the totality of who Jesus is, the totality of our heroes of the faith and the manly things that they did. And so the only play we know is to be the chick's best friend.
That's right.
And we're very feminine about it.
That's right.
And so what do we do? How do we act? And there's like this big gap. So no wonder we play the friend zone move. That's all we know.
That's right. Yeah, no, it's so true because, and the other thing that we got to keep in mind is often BigEva will love like they pretend to teach a Christ that was masculine, and they'll talk about how he had zeal and he was ferocious. That was one of Matt Chandler's favorite word, ferocious. But the thing is though that they actually low key take it back. So what they give you with their rhetoric, they take away with their actions. So it's like, yeah, they'll teach you that stuff. They'll say it because they know that's what guys kind of want to hear a little bit. Like this is not a religion for chicks. Mm-hmm. But then the minute you act that way, they rebuke you. They tell you to stop. They put an end to that quick. And so you could teach all day long that a man needs to be ferocious for Christ. But the minute they act like ferocious for Christ, then you rebuke them. You're actually teaching that you can't be. Mm-hmm. You're actually teaching that you can't be. I had a guy today tell me that an insult was unbecoming of a Christian and shows a lack of maturity. And I said, well, that's a real problem because then you're going to have a Christ that lacked maturity. So are you going to take that one back because he insulted people, right? Mm-hmm. And he instantly took it back because he's like, you're absolutely right. So he took it back. He took it back and he said, you know what? Maybe we just disagree on when to deploy them. Wow. And I said, yeah, that makes more sense. So granted, listen, I'm not going to say that you have to agree with me every time I choose to deploy a sick burn. You know what I mean?
Right.
But the thing is, like, people often just instantly say, no, it shows a lack of maturity. It's a sin without thinking, because if that's the case, then then we're in our sins right now because we didn't have a savior, because he couldn't be a savior if he wasn't perfect. Right.
Amen. Yeah.
And so we all kind of instantly go there because we were taught to go there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've been conditioned. It's been our culture. It's the heroes that we have. Even if they're not truly those things, they've been shaped and they've been taught to us in a way that they've been very feminine. They've been very castrated in their actions.
Yeah.
And it's like, and this is so good. We should go through this a little bit because I've had these interactions too. I did not have as much success as you did with having them change their mind. I mean, you're kind of giving me hope for humanity right now.
Yeah. Well, and then Mark here in the chat said Jesus wept. And it's true. Jesus did weep. But I actually love that passage because that passage is very interesting the way it's translated, because in that passage, most of our translations that we know as hipster BigEva folks, it says that he was deeply troubled in his spirit or something like that. But actually, there's a connotation of anger. He was actually angry. So it says that Jesus was angry in his spirit and wept. So it's like, even that one, I love that passage so much because just the idea of Jesus seeing Lazarus in the tomb and his sisters crying and all this kind of stuff, and he weeps out of anger. That's interesting to me. I love that so much, and I think we need to cultivate some of that healthy, godly anger at times.
Yeah, and honestly, like I'll cry sometimes too. But it's not crying when I don't get my way. It's not crying when life's hard on me. And my feelings are overwhelming myself. But it's when there's heavy things that are going on. So by no means am I trying to say that we need to be macho or Mark Driscoll-esque by any stretch of the imagination. But we do need to fight. And we do need to be warriors. And it's very important because there is a time coming, and is now,
Yeah.
where we are in this battle that we need people to fight and to be courageous, masculine men that are men. I should say that in 2020.
Calvin in the chat asked this. He says, is when to use a sick burn a matter of Christian conscience? And should we learn to accept our brothers who have differences of opinion on how to best achieve a sick burn, or when not to use them? Definitely. This is Calvin. This is a great question, but this is exactly what I mean when I always talk about Ezra's and Nehemiah's, because you get the impression reading the passage, the two books, that Ezra was probably a little bit more reserved than Nehemiah. Nehemiah would be the guy that would probably burn you all day long, kind of thing. You know what I mean? And Ezra was probably less that. So yeah, we need each other. And I would also say this, that for people that are choosing to deploy this kind of language every now and then, like myself, what's important for me, I think, is to have a couple things in play. So I know that I'm not going to deploy these things perfectly, right? I know that I'm going to make mistakes. This is not an excuse not to do it, because we need to follow Jesus's example when we're on the front line. So I'm still going to do it. But what I need, though, is men in my life that understand that the language is necessary at times, and who know me fairly well, so that they know when I'm out of control or still in control. Mm-hmm. You understand what I'm saying? Like, if you're going to do that kind of thing, you need to have guys like that. I've got a number of guys that I've asked specifically to say, and I trust them very much. They've got tender hearts, but they know that this is necessary at times. Mm-hmm. I've asked them to say, if you ever see anything that I've said that's out of character for me, or you think it was unnecessary, or if you think it wasn't appropriate, tell me. Yeah. And I can't promise to agree with you, and I can't promise to necessarily react well in the moment. I hope I can, mm-hmm. but please tell me. It would. And my pastor is one of these guys. I've asked him to this exact thing, like, mm-hmm. Just keep an eye on me, and he does. He watches my content, not all of it, but he watches it, mm-hmm. and that's it, Calvin. It's. I think it's a matter of conscience. I think it's debatable, and so. Definitely. The answer is yes. And so you need to kind of guard yourself and set up guards with people around you as well. Also, one other thing is try not to judge others as well when they say something you wouldn't have said, or don't say something you would have said. Like, allow a little room for that, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And also I would add is too, whenever I catch myself actually becoming angry and having that emotion, I really kind of step back and stop. If I'm going back and forth with someone and things like that, because that's when I think I've noticed myself is where I do have to pull back and apologize and things like that. But it's really, you got to like monitor yourself and make sure that you're in control. Yeah. Most of the time I'm making fun of people and laughing at them, calling them fools, calling them clowns, not because I'm angry or out of control or losing my mind, but it's because they're actually saying things that are clownish. They're actually saying things that are ridiculous. And I think this is important. It's not everyone's a clown that I disagree with. Not everyone is a fool. Not everybody that doesn't see it exactly my way is the enemy. I try to save those escalated events, for a business term, for people that are literally trying to malign the gospel, that are bringing in heresy, that people are bringing in worldly philosophies of man. Like, those people need to be rebuked, that are teaching the stuff, that are in leadership positions. And I try to save it for those kinds of things. When people are asking me questions, pushing back online, even, I'm not trying to be that person to them all the time. It's when they're trying to come in and convolute the truth and sneak in things that I think are wrong. They're trying to make it seem like you can vote for Democrats or not. If you want to see examples of that, just go over to my Twitter right now. And I just got off a back and forth with that exact case and point.
Well, Matt, I'm going to have to rebuke you right here, because you just used the word clown. Uh-huh. And I've heard that that's actually a dog whistle that the QAnon community uses regularly.
Yeah, I heard that too just today from a person I was going back and forth with. I didn't even know he was serious. I kind of made a joke about it, like, oh my gosh, are you going to tell Joe Carter about this? And then he was like, seriously? And he's like, no, you didn't really say no. Can you get on the record and say
you're lying? He didn't say that.
Yes, he did. You go back and look. He follows it up with another tweet. And that's why I was thinking, like, maybe I should just own this, that I do go on this place wherever it is.
This evil place where they understand the facts that Trump is maligned and
they believe COVID's overstated.
Like, seriously, it's such a passive claim. It's not even that COVID's not dangerous.
Right.
It's just that it's overstated. It's not like it's like the most passive thing you could say about COVID. That's
And
not
that
the
was
official
leading
narrative.
argument.
And that's their leading thing. How dangerous. Can you believe how dangerous QAnon is? It's over. They said it's overstated.
Yeah. So bad. Another one, I want to talk about a few more things that you get sometimes when you fight in with more how should I say it? Feminist men,
Male
effeminate men, men that aren't comfortable with how men talk.
I think in the QAnon community we call them soy boys.
Soy boys.
That's what I think they
I
call
like
them.
that.
Soy boys.
I need to learn more about this community. But oftentimes they'll go after you and say, "Man, you're being really prideful." And it could be true that there are. But this is the difference, is when we are holding people to the standard of the Bible and pushing people to Christ, when I'm not comparing people to myself and being, oh my gosh, you're not like me, or you're not thinking like I am, you're a clown. But when we're saying, no, you're contradicting the Bible that you're claiming to represent, or you're bringing this in and convoluting it, or you're doing what exactly the Bible warns us about, you're being clownish, you're being a fool. That's not coming from a place from pride. And I think that you really need to understand that if you're going to be talking like this and going into this battle, you're going to get that attack. And one, you need to be careful that you aren't being prideful. But two, you need to understand that when you're confidently on the foundation of Christ, when you are on the word of God and leveraging your attacks and making your strategies and tactics based on that, even if they call you prideful, don't just automatically back down from that.
I agree. And I think, prideful is such an easy thing to just throw around. You can say anyone's prideful, and what if you're fair with yourself, you notice that most of the time the people you think are prideful are the people that don't agree with you. Not always, but most of the time. And so I just personally I tend not to use that phrase, even if I think someone's being prideful. Like I tend not to lead with that or even address it at all. I try to just focus on the content. And I'm sure I've made mistakes in the past and I've said someone's prideful, but it just no one hears it. It just doesn't really.
Yeah.
Your friends should tell you that you're being prideful. Like if you're someone that if you're opposing someone's statements or arguing with someone online, you don't agree, the pride thing isn't going to move the needle at all. However, like I said earlier, like have friends that are on your side that can watch you, that can say, dude, like you're being prideful, because they know you, they know you, they know what you're like normally. So your enemies are probably, they're probably not going to move the needle too much with you when they call you prideful. You know what I mean?
For sure. And it's such a nuanced thing too, because for one man, being prideful could be making fun of somebody or calling somebody out. On the other hand, someone who chooses not to do that could be prideful in the fact of them not doing it.
That's exactly right, Matt. Because we have a lot of that that I've seen, and this is from people that would disagree with me on things. I've seen people talk about how they're worried that people like them, their friends that aren't taking a side in politics, are becoming prideful in not taking a side. Right. So it's like that makes sense to me, that you could become prideful to be that one middle ground, wisdom signaling, epically wise Christian that doesn't. The truth is somewhere in the middle. It could make sense that you could take pride in that.
Yeah,
but sure. Anyway,
we see that a lot in our culture. The glory of the middle.
Yeah,
I love this. Woke Whitfield. Oh, sorry, I kind of was loud on that. Woke Whitfield says God whispers about being prideful.
So I guess I'm okay.
Yeah, we're good with that. And the last one I got today that I want to mention, because I think that we'll get this a lot, is like, and when you say like, hey, there were times where Jesus was calling people out, where he was, shaking things up. There's times when the prophets were kind of doing crazy things, pulling out beards, mocking the false prophets. They'll say, oh, what are you trying to compare yourself to Jesus? Like, oh, you shouldn't compare yourself to Jesus. And I just want to say that if we're not supposed to compare ourselves to Jesus, what are we doing as Christians, guys?
Why are we called Christians?
Yeah, little Christ. That's what Christian means. And
I'm trying to do what he did. I'm trying to do the things he did. Yes, that's exactly right.
Exactly. And if I am not mistaken, I thought the law was our schoolmaster. And didn't Jesus is the word of God? Isn't he the fulfillment of the law? Isn't that by definition what we're supposed to be doing?
I heard someone that's well respected in BigEva circles say that this exact argument about how you're not Jesus. And the way he framed it was, well, you can't do everything Jesus did because he died on the cross for the sins of the world. You can't do that. I just like, Is that what we're doing? Is this kindergarten? It's kindergarten. Like I wouldn't be upset if my son said something like that because he's just learning how to learning how to think big boy thoughts. Yeah. But I thought when we became adults, you know what I mean? We could think the big boy thoughts.
Yeah, we put the childish things aside. I don't know. I think Paul said that somewhere. I'm losing track of what we can listen to Paul about and what we can't listen to Paul about. It's really confusing.
It's very confusing. Yes. Actually, it's not. Matt, it's not. Can I clear it up for you right now?
Please.
All the things that wouldn't offend MSNBC, you can listen to those things.
What if it would, Joe Scarborough?
If you could go on Joe Scarborough and not offend him with it,
yes,
then you can believe those parts of Paul. That you have his permission, and that Mika lady, you have their permission.
Yes. If anything would take you out of the friend zone,
that's right.
Say it or
you shouldn't say it. No.
You shouldn't believe it.
If you're about to get the girl, don't say that. That's too risky.
Yeah. If the girl starts eyeing you with a little friendly look, you're in trouble. Get back in that zone.
Get back in the nice guy. You want to be a nice guy. If you guys want to have a little fun, I don't necessarily recommend it because it's not all rated PG, but go to Reddit and search the subreddit nice guys. There's some interesting stories there of nice guys.
I bet those are good. All right. Somebody asked us to want to hit on the SBC renaming thing. And I think Michael Fallon had a great tweet about this. He said that churches are locked down, cities are on fire, the Constitution is in tatters, Marxists are taking to the streets, cancel culture is subverting free speech, and J.D. Greear is concerned about the word Southern. J.D. Greear is the face of Christian cancel culture.
Oh man,
I don't know how else to say it.
Yeah, it's a perfect tweet. It's like what I said the other day about QAnon as well. It's like if you listed all the problems in the United States from 1 to 1,000, there are 1,000 problems in the United States. QAnon would be like 950, and the word Southern and Southern Baptist would be like it wouldn't even be on the list. Like it wouldn't even be a problem if you were honest with yourself. But that's of course what we're really straining to work through. Mm-hmm. We're gonna call ourselves. In fact, but let me just say this. I actually kind of like the name change. I always thought it was weird that I'd be in Vermont going to a Southern Baptist church. It made no sense to me.
Right.
But I don't support this name change because of the reasoning. Mm-hmm. So eventually at one point when we get past all this, you might want to consider changing your name.
Right. Oh, yeah, that'd be good. I always thought that was weird too. I was in California and see Southern Baptist and I'm like, what are you talking about? What? I don't even understand. How am I supposed to relate to this whatsoever? Back, before I was even a Christian.
Here's Mark says a lot of liberal Christians dislike the Apostle Paul. What do you think about that? I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No, that's fine. Yeah, a lot of liberal Christians dislike the Bible too. I don't know what to say about it.
Sorry about that. There's like a lag there for a second.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And also, I have to say this about the name change. Do you think it's going to stop at a denomination? Like the thing that they're saying is bad about Southern is not that it's irrelevant or it doesn't apply to the North or the West. It's that they were slaveholders and it implies slavery, right?
That's right.
What do you think the Bible does?
Well, let's deconstruct this a little bit. Let's reverse engineer this. Okay, so Southern is about slavery. Then America also, the 3/5 Compromise, they allowed slavery. So PCA has to change its name, Presbyterian Church in America. PCUSA needs to change its name. I'm sure they already did. All that kind of stuff. So okay, so let's reverse engineer it a little bit more. So they were when they came here, they made arguments from the Bible. So you're right, Matt. What do we have to do then?
Yeah.
Did Christ ban slavery when he was here on earth? I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so. So, I mean, can we even call ourselves Christians anymore? I mean, think of the connotation.
I know, dude. I don't know what to call it. We might as well just change our name to statist or something. That's kind of like where they want us to go with this, right?
State church. There you go.
Yeah. That's very non-confrontational, and we'll get a woman pastor and we'll be all right. We'll not have anything controversial to say, and we'll be all in the friend zone together. And
Well, every year, one of our leaders will get to be on MSNBC.
Yes, we'll get to choose one.
when they
We'll get everyone from the districts, and we'll have them compete for who gets to be the one who goes on the pedestal and gets to be on Joe Scarborough.
Calvin says that his favorite kind of American cuisine is Great Commission food, and he gets it when he goes to the Great Commission states.
Oh, I get it. That's Southern. I'm slow today. All right. So there's one more tweet I wanted to get to, because 80, seriously, this was, I think, your best tweet in a while. And I think it's really important for us to remember. You said, I think he would. I just want to get to this one part. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, man. Take your time.
Well, it's kind of, I was going to just read your part, but it doesn't really make sense. But here, I'm going to just read anyways. I think he would, because he still is in the early stages of jihad, where you are just looking for tolerance until the numbers shift your way, and then you seek submission. So I don't know. You're talking about Keller.
Yeah. So somebody asked if Keller would apply the same reasoning to, I think, race and like that kind of thing, like the reasoning that God tells us that racism is bad, but he doesn't tell us exactly how to defeat racism. So therefore, you could vote for someone who was racist. And so he was trying to basically say, like, Keller wouldn't be consistent with this weird policy.
But I think what you said here, the play, is really important for us to remember, guys.
Yes.
Is that they're calling for tolerance until they have the high ground, and then it's submission. And if you look back at anything we've been doing, tolerance of the gays, tolerance of women pastors, tolerance of whatever you want, whatever the culture has been telling us to be tolerant about, as soon as they've gotten it, they didn't stop. Then they wanted submission. You will bake this cake for us.
That's right.
You will have women pastors. You will wear the mask. You will take the vaccine. Like, this is the play every single time. So when you are thinking like, oh, we're just letting this small issue go by, just remember the tolerance is a play to a future goal. This is all part of a strategy, and we better stop thinking that it's just this small battle, it's just this face mask, because they're coming for submission. That's the end game in all of these plays. That was so good, Eddie.
No, I appreciate you saying that, and I definitely believe it. It's always about tolerance until they get the right numbers, and then they make you do what they want. That's just what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey guys, thank you everyone who watched this show, especially all of you. I mean, a lot of people stayed the whole time. The viewership's awesome. Thank you so much for interacting with the show. If you missed it, you can always check it out Fridays. I hope to see you guys here next Thursday. 7:30 p.m. Eastern. We're going to have a special guest. I haven't confirmed him yet, but it's somebody everyone knows. It might be on the show. And then the week after, we have the Fight Laugh Feast conference. It's already coming up.
That's right.
So I locked down Jared Longshore. He's going to be on the show.
Nice.
I don't even know how exactly we're going to do that show, because we're all going to be in person, and the show isn't an in-person thing.
That's true. That's true.
So we might have more technical difficulty doing it.
Hey, it'll be fun though. It'll be fun.
Yeah. All right. So if you guys want to follow us, you can follow Real AD Robles on the social media sites. I'm at How to Build a Tent. You can support us, Reform Jellicle. I always do that. Oh my goodness. Patreon.com/reformjellicle. Look forward to you guys. Thank you for sharing the show and inviting other people. This show's been growing, and it's been so encouraging. We really appreciate all of your guys' support. Saying goodnight for AD and myself. We'll talk to you next week. God bless.
God bless.